Good morning. I'd like to thank the Tennessee Titans and Nissan Stadium for hosting us this morning. I would be remiss not to acknowledge the amazing groundbreaking ceremony. The program was excellent, and I commend this board of directors for showing up in great numbers. So thank you for being a part of that. It was a great day. No one has reached out to us about comments today or on our action items, so we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is consideration of the minutes from the February 27th, 2024 meeting. You should have received these minutes. Are there any corrections or adjustments? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay, and the motion passes. Thank you. Now we will hear from our executive director.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Thank you for being here today. You have the agenda before you. This morning, the board will receive an update on RFQ 35761 for the Sports Authority's construction representative. You will also consider resolutions related to an amended and restated site coordination agreement, an MOU with Metro addressing parking at Nissan Stadium, and also an amendment extending our agreement with PMC, our parking contractor. Board will also receive a monthly stadium update and the facility report from the Titans. Are there any questions about the agenda? No? Okay. So typically at our March meeting, the board considers a license and use agreement for the use of the Sports Authority parking lots for the St. Jude's Rock and Roll Marathon. The process is a little bit different this year for two reasons. Number one, the land and the parking lots have been transferred back to Metro. And then secondly, lots A through D, which is about 3,500 spaces, are no longer available for the marathon to use. So Brandon is back there. He's worked really hard with competitor group, with Metro attorneys Josh and Lexi, and also with the Metro Special Events Office. And so instead of entering into a license and use agreement with the authority, this year we're going to grant the marathon civic use days and allow a competitor to use the lots free of charge since it's such a large community event. The marathon is Saturday, April 27th, and the kids' 1 mile race and the doggy dash are on Sunday. Competitor will use portions of lot R, P, and K in the days leading up to the race, which is very typical for operations compound, water compound, medical compound, those kinds of things. And you do have a letter agreement, I think, in your binders. Are there any questions about the marathon? Okay. If there aren't any questions about the marathon or anything else, that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you for those updates. The next item on the agenda is intent to award RFQ 357261. And Monica, we're going to ask you to kick us off with that.
So we've been talking about this for a long time. And in November of last year, Metro Procurement published the RFQ soliciting a firm to serve as the authority's construction representative. The deadline for proposals was December the 12th. An evaluation team comprised of Metro representatives from the East Bank, Metro Planning, the Fairgrounds served. I was also a part of that team. And then also Metro's consultant from Inner Circle Sports, who has been, he's been to a meeting some time ago, also served as a non-voting technical advisor. The committee met approximately 5 times to review, evaluate, and score the proposals. This also included time for additional follow-up and discussion with the top 2 firms. At the end of the committee's diligence, a recommendation was made to the Metro purchasing agent. She also continued the diligence and the selection of a notice of intent to award. And so that intent to award was made on March 8th to the Cummings Group. On Monday, March 18th, the protest was filed by the Capital Project Solutions GHP team within the 10-day window. Our Chief Procurement Officer, Michelle Lane, is with us this morning to answer any questions and can also speak to some next steps.
Okay. So are we inviting?
I think we are inviting her to come up if there are questions. If there are not questions, then Michelle can just speak to next steps.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good morning.
How about now? There we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you just like kind of a standard understanding of what next steps are when we have a procurement protest filed, I'm happy to do either of those, whatever the leisure of the commission is, the authority.
If you could just give us next steps, I think that would be helpful, and then we may have questions around that.
Sure. So the procurement code, as well as more definitively or more specifically, I should say, in the procurement regulations, define the administrative remedy available to offerors who believe they've been aggrieved in the process, and that can be offers or prospective offers. As Ms. Faulknotson noted, offers would be required to, or aggrieved parties would be required to submit the protest in writing within 10 days of the intent to award. We did receive such protest, and in cases like this, typically what occurs is that the purchasing agent will be in contact with that vendor, establish a clear understanding of what the points of protest are, and establish those as the minimum points that would be considered in any kind of a protest resolution effort. It can go a couple of different ways at the leisure of the purchasing agent. Typically, what will happen is that there is a public, formal protest hearing in which all parties are invited, in which the aggrieved party is offered the opportunity to further expand upon the point of protest that they have lodged. And then other parties are likewise afforded an opportunity to discuss. It does not turn into kind of a cross-table discussion where there's a back and forth. It really is for the purpose of allowing the purchasing agent to gain additional information, to better understand, and then to make a decision about whether or not the action of the procurement division was in keeping with state law, with the Metro Code, as well as with the solicitation itself. So I've already begun some of that work. And then the next steps on that would be toward the resolution of that protest with a formal written determination to be provided.
Thank you for that update. So my question would be, is there a timeline to remedy this process?
And again, I've already begun that work. So I've already made initial contact with the protesting party to better understand their points of protest. They have committed to connecting with me within a couple of business days to, kind of further expand upon their intent. And then, we'll go from there with the resolution. I mean, I understand the importance of this work for this authority, and I also understand the importance of the resolution being as expedient as possible.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have a question about what was the party who was not chosen? Were they explained to why they were not chosen?
Yes, sir. With every intent to award that is issued by the procurement division, there, with the exception of invitations to bid, which are strictly low cost. And of course, here, this is not a low cost situation. We're looking for best value. What we provide to all parties and make public and available to anyone who cares to digest it is what we call an evaluation summary and award justification. And it details very clearly how the evaluation played out across all of the procurement solicitation evaluation categories. And so that was provided to all parties as well as to the general public. I will note also that the protesting party did also request and receive copies of all the proposals that were submitted.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Not. Thank you for being here, Ms. Lane. We appreciate you.
Madam Chair, if I may, just for a point of information for this board, advise that I am the outgoing Chief Procurement Officer. I have accepted a role as Deputy Finance Director within Metro. I will still continue to have procurement as one of those areas of responsibility in my portfolio. So I love the work. I'm very privileged to continue to be near to it, even in my new role. And if I could take just a moment, I'd like to introduce for this authority our new Chief Procurement Officer, Mr. Dennis Rowland. Dennis, if you don't mind just standing or waving.
Good morning, Dennis. Good morning. Thank you.
I really want you all to know that, on future procurement actions and going forward, of course, I'm going to see this process through because the intent to award was made by me and the protest was received by me. But future procurement actions will be overseen by our new Chief Procurement Officer.
Thank you so much for that. And I will be the first to say that it's been a pleasure working with you. You've been very helpful to this authority. And we just want to be the first to congratulate you on your new assignment. So
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consideration of approval of a resolution approving an amended and restated site coordination agreement, relieving the Sports Authority of responsibilities and removing it as a party. So at this time, I'll introduce Metro Deputy Law Director Tom Cross. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. It's good to be back in front of you. That's a long caption for something that's actually pretty simple here. And the request is going to be to approve your exit from a contract. I do have a couple slides. I think it'd be helpful to go through just to put all this in context. But at the end of the day, you don't need to be a party to one of the agreements of the several that the board approved about a year ago. And so that's all that's going on here. Hope you can see that pretty well. This is just mostly to reorient everybody to the campus, that where the new stadium sits. To the right is north, and to the left is north, and to the right is south. There, and the lot marked parcel B is referred to in some of the documents that you approved as the North Village. The lot that is marked as parcel C is what's referred to as the South Village. And between the new stadium and parcel C, sort of down at the western end of that, is a sort of an orange area with a symbolic tree in the middle of it. That's a plaza. And we can come back to this in a minute, but I wanted to get everybody on this kind of on the same page. So all of this property, other than the site of the existing stadium, at one point belonged to the Sports Authority. It was the transfer of that property to Metro was approved by this board and accepted by Metro as a part of the approval of the stadium package. So everything except for the site of the existing stadium now belongs to Metro. And the site of the existing stadium, Metro has an option to purchase when the new stadium has been completed and the old one is demolished. So at that point, Metro will own everything. And you may recall that the Metro has leased the site of the new stadium to the Sports Authority, and the Sports Authority will be subleasing that to the Titans. The two most important documents that the authority approved last year were that lease, the operating lease with the Titans, and a development agreement that calls for the Titans to build the new stadium, mostly. There were several other documents that were approved at that time, and one of them was a so-called site coordination agreement, which is the one we're talking about this morning. There were almost no responsibilities in the site coordination agreement that the Sports Authority had to carry out. But it dealt with things like parking in the North Village, that Lot B, and elsewhere in the campus. Just as a reminder, Metro's obligation, now that it owns all of the relevant parking areas, is to keep 2,000 available for the Titans' use during stadium events. So during construction and the like, we're gonna have to abide by that. But the way things have unfolded, this was not something that the Sports Authority had to deal with anyway. The other parts of this agreement had to do with sort of managing coordination on event days, and who owned and what maintenance responsibilities, operating obligations for the plaza, the little orange space down there. Advertising restrictions, knowing that the Titans have a one major stadium sponsor and a bunch of other sponsors for things that go on within the stadium, and also understanding that the entity that would be selected to build things in the rest of the campus was probably also going to have advertising interest for what goes on. So the site coordination agreement helped to manage those relationships. At the time, we of course did not have a developer selected, and one of the major procurements that Michelle's office handled under her supervision was an RFP for a developer partner for Metro for what's referred to in all the documents as the initial development area, which is basically the right-hand side of the page, north of the Korean Veterans Bridge, but only as far north as sort of the southern boundary of the new stadium. So kind of the right-hand side of that is the initial development area. The rest of the stadium campus is expected to be developed eventually, but obviously this building we're in now is still here and will be for another several years. So that selection process resulted in an award or an intent to award to the Fallon Company, and Metro has spent the last 5 months negotiating with Fallon on a development agreement and a form of ground leases that are now pending before the council. So these are somewhat parallel to the documents that you approved with the Titans. Development agreement, here's what you're going to build, here's sort of the envisioned sequence, here are the things that we expect to see, some affordable housing, some hotels, some other things, ground floor retail. And I'm not doing it justice. This is hundreds of pages of stuff, but that's basically it. And then they're expected to take down individual parcels one at a time as they develop them. So they won't be taking a lease for all of the campus parcels in the initial development area at once. It'll be a parcel at a time. And their plan is to develop the parcel that is marked parcels marked G and C to start. Council deferred the ordinance that would approve those two agreements and several others on Tuesday night. Those are expected to be, which was the administration's was behind that. Those are expected to be taken up on second and third reading in April. And if all goes as expected, then some other things will happen. There will be another package of legislation that the council is going to need to approve this summer, including one that would adopt a downtown code zoning as modified to to the development area. One other thing that you've probably read about is a piece of legislation that would approve a memorandum of understanding between Metro and the Tennessee Performing Arts Center, which, as you know, is currently in a state-owned building, and they are looking to exit that and move to what is marked parcel E. The parcel it actually says TPAC on it, so that parcel would, as it's shown on the map, there would be E1, which is eventually likely to be developed by Fallon, but the TPAC's new center, assuming everything is approved at the MOU stage, and then eventually a development agreement and ground lease for TPAC, that will be their new home. That's obviously a very prominent lot. That's the one that's going to be most visible from Broadway, and so there's a lot of attention's been paid to making sure that Metro has some design approval rights that we wouldn't have in most of our leases. So that's coming too. The expectation is if the council approves the MOU, then we'll work on definitive documents with TPAC that will be presented to the council for approval this summer.
Hey, Tom,
Yes, sir.
how come E1 was kind of drawn in on L, lot L? Why'd they pick that little section of the corner and name it E1?
Well, it's actually on Lot E, and Lot E is not otherwise marked, but that whole piece of property west of what will eventually be the East Bank Boulevard and north of the pedestrian bridge is really E. So there's one piece of it that TPAC doesn't need for its current designs. And one of the other things that's at work here is making sure that access from the pedestrian bridge for pedestrians and cyclists is not impaired during any of this construction process. Part of the TPAC MOU is that TPAC is going to design and build some improvements to the pedestrian bridge to extend it and make sure that at least while construction is going on for their facility and for some of the other facilities, that the bridge can land on that lot. So number one, they don't need it. And number two, they're going to need to do some things to make sure that the pedestrian bridge stays in operation while construction's going on.
So in the end, there probably will not be anything built on E1.
E1 is likely to be developed by Fallon at some point.
Okay, thank you.
So the site, again, this board approved a site coordination agreement that spoke to parking and the fate of that plaza, coordination during events. And now that we have a developer, we and they and the Titans have negotiated a series of agreements, and most of those obligations have landed elsewhere. So that the Titans have agreed to build the plaza and maintain it at their cost. That, of course, means they're going to wind up with the predominant use there, although both the developer and members of the public will be able to use it for some purposes too. But that's very good for everybody's purposes to have the Titans do that. There's now a separate parking agreement that doesn't need to involve the Sports Authority, since the Sports Authority is not going to own any of the lots where parking is going to continue to take place. In addition, the event coordination responsibilities, again, because the Sports Authority doesn't own any of the relevant properties, it doesn't need to be a party to. And so as things have evolved, we've got an amended and restated site coordination agreement that doesn't have the Sports Authority as a party, parking agreement, which took some of the initial site coordination responsibilities and landed them there. Also, Sports Authority doesn't need to be a party to that. And at the end of the day, to repeat myself, the request is that you approve this new site coordination agreement that doesn't involve you as a party. And I'm here to tell you, you can't reach an agreement that you're not a party to. We would suggest that it's a good thing. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's what we're asking you to do.
So to be clear, we have two actual requests on the table. The first one is site coordination.
Yes.
So let's start with that. And I think Thomas, he said it was not complicated. Sounds like a lot. But at the end of the day, he's correct. We can't really be party of something that we don't have the authority to oversee. So I would entertain a motion to approve this amended and restated site coordination agreement, relieving the Sports Authority of those responsibilities.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Further questions for Tom? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That motion passes. And the second request is the MOU with Metropolitan Government in addressing parking on the Nissan Stadium campus and authorizing the amendment of an agreement with Parking Management Company, LLC. Tom, you touched on that, or do you want to make any further remarks on the parking?
Yes, but I'll be brief. Thank you. And to get to the punchline on this one at the beginning too, the request is, would you please keep doing what you're doing for the time being? So you have an existing agreement with a parking management company. It's the term of that contract, I think, is up within the next couple of months. And so the request is to extend the term of that contract, preserving the right to terminate that contract in whole or in part, depending on where the parking lots wind up landing as construction projects proceed. So that's half of it, and half of it is just a memorandum of understanding with Metro, which now owns that lots, that requests that you do these things. So would you please continue to do these things for Metro? That's the request here.
Okay. Questions?
Monica, you comfortable with what he's talking about with the parking lots?
We are comfortable, and by this agreement, then the Sports Authority will take on any cost associated with the upkeep and maintenance of the lots, and we will continue to receive the revenue from PMC monthly, which will allow us to do that.
And I'm assuming there's no timeline at this point. It's just extended indefinitely.
It's a 3-year
It's
term.
a 3-year term.
3-year term.
Okay. Yeah. Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion.
Yes.
I'm just curious as to what are the implications of extending this timeline with someone else. Would there have been another opportunity for a bid for another company? Just trying to gain some clarity on just the positionality of extending it, and if there's any implications for any other opportunities for anyone else that may have bidded for this contract.
Yeah, it's a good question. Do you want to address this? We've talked
I can
about
take that
this.
on. There may have been other people interested in continuing the service, but given the fact that some of the lots are likely to be taken down and developed, what's available is going to get smaller and smaller, and weighing the balance between opening it up for competition and making sure that we don't have some failure as a result of a handoff that doesn't work well. Our recommendation is let's stick with the status quo for now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, there's a motion on the floor. It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. The motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the floor for any board members to have questions of our facility partners related to their venues. For our new board members, if there are some occurrences that have come up since our last meeting, anything you'd like to hear about. We'll hear from Nissan Stadium and the Titans later, so any comments from any of our partners? If not, I would like to take a moment to ask Ron Goebel and Jim Pushowski to come and give us an update about project management at this point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, we appreciate the opportunity to be here. As we've said before, GHP and CPS are acting program managers for the stadium, representing the Sports Authority as we go through this process. If you recall, in the last meeting, you reviewed in a work session and in a board meeting approval of the 50% design development drawings. We've now received the 100% set of design development drawings, which means they're roughly halfway through the design of all the details that's going to go into the building. We've had 18 professionals reviewing this set. We have 28 pages of comments, and over the next few weeks, we'll be meeting with the Titans to review these comments and questions that our professionals may have had. So that's an ongoing process. We're continuing to monitor the contractors' meetings, design meetings, and we will be, obviously with construction, actually going to be starting here in the next couple of weeks, be monitoring that as well. We're also looking at early release packages where they're authorizing contractors to get started before they get their GMP. Jim, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So far, there's been 4. Early site work, vertical transportation, elevators, escalators, electrical gear, and deep foundations so far. And they've been vetted very thoroughly. The competition was good on those, and the diversity numbers are very strong on those. And they're actually trending a little ahead. So it all looked really good. There were a lot of work went into those. And so we've signed off on those, and those are going through the process of the Titans and TBA. We're also continuing with the coordination with all the East Bank, things that are going around everywhere. So there's a lot of pieces and parts to all those. And also working with planning on some of those issues as well. But so far, so good. Everything seems to be going very smoothly. Everybody's cooperating, and we're working well together and don't have any issues.
Awesome.
Well, that's basically it.
Pretty much.
Thank you. Any questions for Ron or Jim?
I did just want to know, what's a GMP?
That's a guaranteed maximum price.
Okay.
Which that will trigger the bonds, and that is scheduled for this fall.
Great. Okay. Thank you all for the
Thank you.
update. Thank you so much. Next, last but not least, we'll hear from Adolfo Birch and Shannon Myers, who will give us the Tennessee Titans report.
All right. Thank you. Shannon Myers, Chief Financial Officer for the Tennessee Titans. We're going to get you on the right tab so that we're looking at tab 7, the one-page memo. Is it in? Yep. Tab, kind of near the back of tab 7. On ours, there's a little yellow sticky. You all have that as well. Okay. I'll keep my comments brief. I'm just going to focus on current Nissan Stadium capital projects. I know that we recently just spoke just a couple of weeks ago. So on that one-page executive summary, that memo, it broken out into sections, completed projects and ongoing projects, no updates since we last spoke. But on the anticipated projects, you'll see 3 bullets there. When we spoke last, I had given a verbal update, but now these are on the memo. One project, fire safety and security projects, that is replacing fire alarms, strobe lights, sprinkler lines, things like that. We've got a quote in for $45,400. Looking to do that next month. Concrete step repair in the Stadium Bowl. We're still inventorying the crumbling steps that have remained after this last winter freeze. Looking at that at an estimate of around $100,000. Again, looking to do that in the next month or two as well. And then the third item is new. We hadn't spoken about the LED messaging boards that we are looking to purchase. That would be 2 large LED trailers and then 6 portable LED boards, really to help with the egress and the ingress for our fans from a safety perspective on event days with all of the construction that will be happening around the stadium, making sure as parcels come online and offline in real time, we can update and make sure that our fans are coming in and out of the building safely. So that one is around $96,000 as well. So those are the 3 anticipated items I just wanted to bring to the board's attention. All of those we believe are in line with our lease standard, but wanted to be available for any questions. Yes.
I'll just be curious to know what happens to those boards in the near future as we transition and prepare for a new stadium, just looking at the new investments and trying to understand what's essential with the type of timeline that we have.
Yep, they will be the property of the Sports Authority. So at that time, we're still kind of working on what in this building will transition over to the new building or what at that time would be given back. I don't know, Monica, if you have some additional comments on that.
So this is something that we're just starting to discuss, and there are, other items that no longer are needed, and, we are having conversations with other partner facilities and departments, and I expect that we're going to end up bringing something to you all. We're having a similar conversation about a project at First Horizon Park, and so there's some things that we'll bring back to you. We're still working through this right now, but it is something that we are considering and talking through.
Mm-hmm. But great question. Anything that we can continue to transition over to the new stadium, such as these, if they are still relevant, we absolutely would.
And let me say too. We've worked a lot with Metro and with EBID, and there are certain things that they will take and will put on that Metro auction site, and then that revenue does come back to the Sports Authority, goes to the Stadium Fund. But obviously, there's a limit to what they can take, and they're going to take things that they think they can sell. So in that case, we start looking at, well, what is the best way to reuse, help, donate, those kind of things.
Additional questions? Thank you. Great question.
I will turn it over to Adelpha.
All righty. Well, thank you, everyone, for letting us kind of provide this update on the project as a whole. I think, as you know, February and March have been particularly active in this space. I do want to highlight a few things. I think the report itself is at the beginning of tab 7, but to kind of run through a few items. One, I think Chairperson Bender, we appreciate your remarks about the groundbreaking. We agree with it. We thought it was an outstanding event. Functionally, we know that it was one that was carried nationally and brought a lot of attention to the city, a lot of attention to the project, and was uniformly recognized as a sort of outstanding production in terms of how groundbreaking events are done. Hopefully most of you were able, I think I did see the majority of you there, but we really thought it was a wonderful event and we were proud to be sort of behind it. The 100% design development documents you heard have been submitted. Those are underway. We expect the 50% CD set to be coming in at around May the 31st. South Plaza work continues in terms of coordinating that design. You heard a little bit about the bid packages that TVA has moving forward, which are the earthwork, the vertical transport, and the electrical. We think the award recommendations are pending on that earthwork and the site utilities piece. Things like parking, traffic, security, we've had some mention of that with respect to how we need wayfarer and signage work, but we are really doing all of that as part of a top-of-mind project on site logistics. We have, in that respect, established some regular meetings and a regular schedule and cadence with Metro and the relevant departments there to kind of work through all those site logistics issues. There are a number of packages we probably should highlight briefly. Third-party testing, that package has been awarded. You will see that it's been awarded to Terracon and GTA, and that'll involve the mass excavation, drill shaft review, and then testing the concrete. Demolition and fall arrest, those two procurements in the final stages. We expect a recommendation of award on demolition in short order, and I think the review of the fall arrest proposals is well underway. LED scoreboards and displays was referenced earlier, and furniture, fixtures, and equipment, those concepts are being sort of formalized now, which ultimately will inform the future planning and postings for those packages, for several packages. And then finally on this front, construction on the Titans House, which is, as you know, the standalone facility in Germantown, to kind of house the sort of varying elements of the expected new stadium fixtures, field, seats, things like that. That continues apace, and we expect that it will be substantially complete by next month, into next month, I guess. On the infrastructure projects, I think you all know which ones we're dealing with now. The Piedmont Gas is substantially complete with that reroute of their gas line. I think they are doing restorative work at this point. Colonial, that gas line relocation is continuing. I believe with respect to that one, there have been some delays attributable to weather and some unanticipated fines, I think, underneath. But I think that's pushed it a little bit, but I think everybody still plans and believes that the completion of the tie-ins will be done by the end of April. We are coordinating with NES with respect to the power, both for the stadium and the larger East Bank opportunities. And then the pump station, that design and pricing is underway, and we expect that that will be completed in appropriate time. As I mentioned on the design development piece, one portion that we should note probably is that the delivery of the 25% CD will be expected at the end of March, and that ultimately will be the basis for the structural steel award down the line. On the construction management side, I believe that things are proceeding apace. with the key points now being sort of on the permitting end, where we are working with the Metro Building Codes and Planning to develop the schedule to clarify any needed code interpretations. And in that respect, I think there are probably 3 permit applications that are of note in the report and probably worth mentioning here. One is the mass excavation that was submitted on December 1st. Next is the deep foundation and underground utilities, which was submitted on the 26th of January. And then the full building permit, which will be submitted sometime after the final 100% documents, which we expect that to happen on August the 30th. Next up, consistent with everyone's commitment to inclusion and opportunity on the project, we wanted to touch briefly on the DBE participation and our sort of efforts in that respect. As you know, Titans, TBA, and Metro's Business Assistance Office have been meeting regularly to discuss, hone, refine, and improve both our status and reporting of DBE participation on both the design and the construction end of the project. Some points to note there. One, the reporting for DBE is being transitioned to the B2G Now platform. That is a platform that was procured by Metro's Business Assistance Office, and it will enable accurate, complete tracking of the DBE utilization in real time. TBA, on its end, has awarded the first of its expected 60-plus contracts, and that's for mass excavation and earthwork. We are pleased to know that the selected prime has projected a 37% DBE participation on that scope, which exceeds the BAO's goal of 35%. I think in sort of closing it out on the community engagement and collaboration end, we thought it might be nice to highlight in particular this month the collaboration that all of us have had with Metro Nashville Public Schools and Pencil Foundation. In particular, since we were talking about the groundbreaking, we wanted to note the our partnership with Verizon Business. We one of the things that we were really proud about was that we provided an opportunity for MNPS students to actually design and create the artwork that's going on the construction site fencing. It's called Scrim, but that is up, and I think if you're coming from the east, you will see it. But it will be up and it will be displayed throughout the entirety of the construction project. So that's a wonderful way for our local area students and their families to be able to participate in part of this project, along with other parts of the collaboration with Pencil and MNPS that we've been able to do in recent months. And I think the only other thing I'd probably mention is that on the procurement end, from an outreach perspective, we've done 2 things, or we're doing 2 things that we think will be very helpful in that respect. The first is merging our websites. We had, corresponding websites between the TBA end and the Titans and CA Icon end. And we are merging those sites so that we can help to really funnel all questions, all information to a single source that will make it much easier for people to have, if they have questions or want to get information on how to be involved or how to participate, they'll be able to do that in the easiest way possible. And then I think TBA has also set up some pre-bid office hour type sessions that will allow businesses to come and get additional information as well, because obviously from our end and from TBA's end, we want to provide as many avenues and opportunities for folks who want interest or who have interest to be able to discuss that. So with that, the project update, the budget is at the end. I think currently we're at $104,529,489 for the month. I guess that period's ended January. The project spent $14,774,728. The full budget is, as per our practice, included at the very end of the report, just for reference. So with that, I think I'll wrap, and I don't know if the chair, if we have any questions, we're happy to try to answer those.
I think we have a question. Thank you. For that.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I did appreciate the artwork that I saw on the fence. Yeah, it caught my attention. So that was exciting, actually. And then I wanted to just understand two things. One, can you further explain Titan's House? Titan's House, I'm kind of unfamiliar.
Sure. So Titan's House is, I think the best way to describe it is sort of like a model home. It will be a place where you will be able to see much of the style and look and feel of all of the elements of the new stadium. So whether that's the different seating options, whether that's even, virtual perspectives of what your view would be from various seatings, what the fixtures will look like, it really is designed to give you a full first-person perception of kind of the things that are going to be available, and then allow folks who are interested to obviously to follow up on that and ask questions and be able to get answers on what that stadium ultimately will look like.
So there's going to be a spectacle that's open for the public?
It's going to be open. I think it's largely going to be appointment-based for those who are interested and who've signed up on the wait list and who are coming up for their, a term to kind of look and see what options they might be have available and want to look at. So I think, open to the public is probably too broad, but it will be used often and by, any number of people who will have some desire and are on the wait list and ready to go.
So some legitimate reason for coming to visit.
Yeah, it's not just an event space. So.
Yeah, okay, understood. And then while I have the floor really quickly, I did want to ask about the DBE outreach. I know you all said you're really extremely early in this process, and this is one of 60. What's the significance in the timeline and the rollout, DBE programs or businesses who engage, if they engage later on in the program or in this process, what are the consequences, if any?
Well, I think if I understand your question, I think it's never too early for a firm or an entity who's interested in participating to raise their hand and try to get involved and try to understand what's going on with the project, even if the work that entity would be doing may not come until later in the process. Let's say if you're someone that lays carpet, that's not something that is really on the list for now in terms of packages, but I think the earlier you can get in and understand what may be required, what that timeline is, what things you may need to do to improve, your position and ability to participate, whether that's additional bonding or whether that's certifications, anything of that nature. I think you'd be well versed to go ahead and start trying to have that conversation now. And I think all of the folks, us, TBA, everyone else, we're readily aware, we're really aware of that and trying to make as much an effort as possible to start those conversations ourselves and be able to help direct people and get them into the proper position so that when the time comes, they're ready to go.
That's good. So sounds like they can engage now, and it's just about where they roll out in the project's timeline.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The first outreach event or the kickoff outreach event, I believe there were 1,200
I was there.
companies represented.
Yeah, I was there.
So
It was a great night.
that is, and certainly not all of them were involved in, pieces of the project that would have an early work associated with them. So.
Thank you. Additional questions for Rodolfo or Shannon? If not, I want to thank you for that report, and I really want to say that I know I certainly appreciate getting it in writing. It's very simple to understand. There are a lot of moving parts, so I appreciate, the heads up and the time that we have to prepare and to understand this going forward. So thank you for that report. So this concludes our agenda. I'd like to thank our staff, Metro Legal and Finance, and all of our facility partners. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 18th at Geodis Park. We do anticipate a Finance Committee meeting prior to that full board meeting. Are there any final questions or comment? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Consider yourselves adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.